Last night, 80 winds tore through Kentucky. Today, 22 million Americans are in the crosshairs. Henderson, Kentucky is cleaning up from destructive storm damage this morning, and the pattern is not done. Today's forecast carries a major new twist. A morning squall line is changing everything about this Monday setup. All right, y'all, this is day 2 of a big-time 3-day outbreak, and today just got more complicated. Yesterday was Kentucky at 80 millisecond. Today is Wisconsin and Chicago. Tomorrow, the East Coast is next. And here's the twist that changes everything a morning squall line could play spoiler by noon today. That squall line could limit the afternoon severe threat, or it could make things significantly worse. 22 million people are inside today's extreme SIG-1 wind risk zone: Chicago, Milwaukee, and Minneapolis. So let's get right into it, starting with what actually happened last night in Kentucky and southern Illinois. Here's the staggering context for today. Last night's storm recharged overnight, and now it's aimed at 22 million. We went from Wisconsin under threat Sunday night to Kentucky taking 80 millisecond winds Sunday evening, same system. Last night's Tennessee Valley MCS delivered the goods, and it was every bit as destructive as feared. WS Paducah issued a destructive severe thunderstorm warning for Henderson and Union County, Kentucky at 6:28 p.m. CDT. Destructive, that classification means the NWS expected significant widespread structural damage to homes and vehicles. Radar-indicated wind gusts of 80 miles per hour were confirmed at Henderson, Madisonville, Morganfield, and Dixon, Kentucky. A public report confirmed 70 miles per hour in Earlington, Kentucky at 7:30 p.m., a real damage event. Flying debris was dangerous for anyone without shelter. Mobile homes, rooftops, windows, and vehicles all took damage. Interstate 69 in Kentucky between mile markers 87 and 91, and again 116 through 134 were severely impacted. Western Kentucky Parkway between mile markers 47 and 56, and Pennyrile Parkway between 1 and 30 also affected. Witnesses in Henderson described the storm arriving in under 2 minutes, blue skies to 80 mph instantly. Fast-moving MCS squall lines give almost no warning before conditions turn catastrophically violent. Mobile homes across western Kentucky were the hardest hit, extremely vulnerable to 80 millisecond straight-line winds. A second destructive warning hit Shawneetown, Illinois, in the Garden of the Gods recreation area at 7:17 p.m. That second storm showed 80 mph winds equality. Harrisburg, Ridgeway, and Rosiclare all in the path. Evansville, Indiana, and surrounding communities also dealt with severe thunderstorm warnings through the evening hours. Severe Thunderstorm Watch 516 covered southern Illinois, southwestern Indiana, and western Kentucky until midnight last night. Primary threats in that watch: 70 mph gusts, 2-inch hail, and the possibility of a tornado or two. Here's what this morning's damage proves: this atmospheric pattern can produce destructive 80 mph straight-line winds. And that same pattern is not done. It is recharging for another round across the upper Midwest today. For historical context, 80 mph straight-line winds equal a strong Category 1 hurricane wind speed at landfall. In 2012, a derecho devastated the Midwest and East Coast with 80 mph winds across a 700-mile corridor. 22 people died in that 2012 derecho. Overnight events are especially deadly because people sleep through warnings. Communities like Henderson, Morganfield, and Dixon, Kentucky are the storm's calling card for today's forecast. If last night tells us anything, the threat today is real and deserves to be taken very seriously. Let's take a look at today's Storm Prediction Center outlook. There's a lot to unpack here today. SPC's enhanced risk today covers 5.25 million people in Wisconsin, Milwaukee, Madison, Green Bay, Duluth, and Racine. Surrounding the enhanced risk, a slight risk covers 36 million Chicago, Indianapolis, Nashville, Minneapolis, and St. Louis. And the marginal risk zone still worthy of attention covers Detroit, Baltimore, Washington, D.C., and Cleveland today. Now let's talk wind risk, because this is the most significant threat of today's severe weather event. SIG-1 extreme wind risk zone covers 22.2 million people today: Chicago, Milwaukee, Minneapolis, St. Paul, and Madison. SIG-1 means a 10% or higher probability of wind gusts exceeding 75 miles per hour somewhere today. Within that, the 30% wind zone covers 6.5 million people: Milwaukee, Madison, Evansville, Green Bay, and Duluth. Last night, Kentucky saw those 30% zones verify at 80 millisecond today. That same risk targets Wisconsin. SPC flagged a SIG-2 extreme wind threat. 85-plus mph winds may appear in future outlooks today. SIG-2 verified would push today toward moderate risk level 4 out of 5 rarely issued in July. Moderate risk is not official yet, but forecasters are actively watching today's data for that possible upgrade. On the tornado side, 5% covers 703,000 people. in central Wisconsin, Wausau, and Chippewa Falls. Model guidance now shows gusts as high as 90 miles per hour possible with today's morning squall line. Specific timing as early as 9 to 10 a.m. Significant damaging wind gusts could approach Milwaukee today. Tornado threat today is most focused near Rockford, Chicago, and northern Indiana. A 5% zone may follow. Baseball-size hail is in play for the 30% hail zone covering Wausau, Stevens Point, and central Wisconsin. And the 15% hail zone covers 12 million people, Milwaukee, Minneapolis, Madison, and Rockford, Illinois. Here's the interesting thing. The hail threat is concentrated in a tighter zone than the wind threat today. That means the early supercell phase could be more localized and intense before the line develops today. Let's talk supercell timing. This matters most for central Wisconsin in the early afternoon today. A supercell, an organized rotating thunderstorm, can produce baseball-sized or larger hail and tornadoes. Hail of 1-inch quarter size can total a car and damage rooftops across a wide area quickly. Baseball-sized hail at 2.5 inches falls at nearly 100 miles per hour, genuinely dangerous. Wausau today sits in the same position Green Bay occupied Sunday night, and Green Bay got hit hard. That 5% tornado zone centered on Wausau and Chippewa Falls deserves full, serious attention today. Two separate storm zones today, one developing in the west this afternoon, one already active to the east. Hot weather plus a crashing jet stream over the upper Midwest makes this atmosphere ripe for storm development. Atmospheric MLKP values are still 3,000 plus joules per kilogram across the upper Midwest this morning. That is comparable to last night's sounding, and last night produced the 80 mile mph winds in Henderson, Kentucky. Think of MLK like a coiled spring. The value measures how tightly the atmosphere is wound today. At 3,000 joules per kilogram, that spring is near maximum tension. When it releases explosively. For comparison, Gulf of Mexico tropical thunderstorms typically sample 2,000 to 2,500 joules per kilogram. Upper Midwest storm environments at 3,000 plus are rarer and more explosive than most tropical storm environments. Interstate 90 across Wisconsin, Interstate 94 through Chicago, and Interstate 65 through Indianapolis all watch corridors today. But here's where today gets complicated. The morning squall line is the twist that changes everything. A morning squall line is expected 7 a.m. to noon widespread, but the severe punch may be limited. Good news scenario if that morning squall line is strong. It brings much-needed rain to the region. It would also stabilize the atmosphere, limiting the higher-end severe threat for the afternoon and evening window. Limit but not eliminate forecasters are clear that the morning line does not cancel today's severe risk. Bad news scenario, if that morning squall line is weaker than expected, it simply doesn't stabilize much. A weak morning line leaves the atmosphere unstable heading into afternoon, and the PM severe threat explodes. Squall line, an organized line of thunderstorms that moves quickly and produces widespread straight-line wind damage. Here's a good analogy. Think of a rolling pin pressing across a table of dough. Cold outflow is the rolling pin, warm, moist air is the dough. Everything it contacts rises violently upward. That rising motion fires explosive updrafts along the leading edge, producing hail, lightning, and damaging winds. When a squall line bows outward on radar, that bow echo is the signature of extreme wind gusts. A bow echo is exactly what produced last night's 80 EMPH Henderson winds. Today's atmosphere supports another. If today's PM squall line becomes large and organized, the primary hazard becomes damaging straight-line winds for millions. This is the same mechanism that produced last night's 80 mph winds in Kentucky. Today's setup is comparable. Forecasters are watching right now whether the morning line fires strong enough to reset the atmosphere today. We won't know the answer until it happens, and that uncertainty makes this afternoon's watch critically important. My goodness, when a morning storm might suppress an evening storm, you know how loaded this atmosphere is? Once again, Chicago, Milwaukee, and the Fox cities need wireless emergency alerts turned on all day today. Treat any window between late morning and early evening as potentially active for severe thunderstorms today. Bottom line, there is no part of today where you can relax if you're inside the risk zone. All right, let's take a look at this frame by frame, the model picture for today's afternoon threats. SPC's official 30% wind probability carries 6.5 million people today centered on the Wisconsin corridor. That 30% probability means a real, statistically significant chance of 75 plus mile per hour gusts. Straight on model uncertainty today is harder to pin down because of the morning squall variable. Models show a 100-mile spread in storm location. By 2 p.m. forecasters are calling today's model spread diabolical. Some runs trend toward a stronger morning squall, limiting the afternoon. Others keep PM storms fully active. GFS model leans toward the morning squall being more organized and partially stabilizing the afternoon environment. European ECMWF keeps the atmosphere partially charged despite the morning squall supporting a damaging PM round. Honestly, this is one of those days where you monitor conditions hourly rather than lock in one scenario. Here's what we know: the environment is loaded, last night proved it, and today's instability is comparable. Best case today, morning squall stabilizes things. PM gusts stay below 16 Nofolk. Widespread damage is avoided. Middle scenario, weak morning squall. PM storms organize into a squall line with 65 to 80 mph gusts. In that middle scenario, widespread power outages across Wisconsin, Illinois, and Indiana would be very likely. Widespread power outages from a major squall line can last 3 to 5 days in some communities. For families with refrigerated medications or medical equipment, a multi-day outage is a genuine medical emergency. Fuel and test your generator before this afternoon. Never wait until after the power is already out. Charge all devices now, fill the car with gas, and have flashlights and water ready for 72 hours. Worst case today, back-to-back squall lines, morning and evening, both producing 80 millithalfers winds across Wisconsin and Illinois. Last night's Kentucky event tells us this atmosphere can produce 80 mil-report winds. It already did. Garden of the Gods, Henderson, Kentucky, Evansville, Indiana, all took destructive winds that confirmed 80 millithalfer peak last night. If you have outdoor plans today in Chicago, Milwaukee, Indianapolis, or Madison, have a solid backup plan. Know your shelter location, have weather alerts enabled. Do not wait for sirens to take action today. Squall lines can produce severe conditions in as little as 10 minutes from a clear-looking radar environment. 10 minutes is not enough time if you're a 20-minute drive-away plan before you leave the house. Once again, if you're on Interstate 90 or Interstate 94 and a severe warning is issued, pull off. Driving through a 75 mph wind event is one of the most dangerous decisions you can make today. Chicago residents, if the morning squall is weak, your primary concern window is 4 p.m. through 9 p.m. Milwaukee and Madison face a 2-round scenario, a morning line, and then a potentially stronger afternoon round. Minneapolis, St. Paul, and Duluth sit just north of the enhanced risk zone monitor conditions all day. Nashville and the TN Valley slight risk zone today, and yesterday's energy is still nearby in the atmosphere. Last night's TN Valley MCS is still feeding into today's southern moisture source. That energy remains nearby. Wisconsin and Tennessee are not two separate stories today. They are driven by the exact same system. Both threats share the same driver, the desert southwest ridge streaming northwest flow over the top. That ridge is the thermostat for this entire outbreak, and it refuses to move or weaken anytime soon. Before closing, let's spend real time on Tuesday because it affects tens of millions of East Coast residents. Tuesday, July 28th, the East Coast gets its turn for severe weather from the southeast northward. A 992 millibar low deepens as it pushes east, driving severe weather into the mid-Atlantic corridor Tuesday. That deepening low pulls Gulf moisture northward into the southeast, creating an extremely unstable Tuesday environment. And here's a phrase rarely heard in July: Tuesday's storm is essentially shaping up as a summer Noreaster. A July coastal low developing off the East Coast, a setup almost unheard of in modern weather records. Wind shear will be elevated from the Carolinas through New England for Tuesday's severe weather window. Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Wilmington, and Philadelphia are inside Tuesday's severe weather corridor. Heads up, D.C. Metro, New York City, Albany, and Nashville also fall inside the Day 3 risk area for Tuesday's storm system. Tornado risk Tuesday is focused near Washington, D.C., Norfolk, Richmond, Charlottesville, and Raleigh, North Carolina. Large to very large hail is on the table Tuesday across North Carolina and Virginia, a significant threat for anyone along the I-95 corridor from Washington, D.C. through Philadelphia. Tuesday afternoon is your window. New York City Metro residents, your window comes Tuesday evening as the system presses northeast along the coast. Same ridge, same reloading pattern. Third consecutive day of organized severe weather Tuesday is the East Coast's story. Wednesday brings some lingering severe weather across New England before the pattern finally begins to weaken. Wednesday brings something truly unusual, a rare summer coastal low developing just off New England's coastline. That coastal low could drop 5 to 6 inches of rain flash flooding threat across southern New England. Long Island, Southampton, and Brookhaven could see 50 to 60 mph gusts late Wednesday into early Thursday. Flash flooding extends from southern New England into New York City as this rare coastal low moves through. One more headline: the first Category 5 hurricane in the eastern Pacific during July since the year 2002. By Thursday, a broader atmospheric shift should reduce the severe weather threat across the eastern United States. After Tuesday, models hint at another active severe weather setup for early August. More on that soon. Hurricane Genevieve is moving west away from land. Maximum sustained winds are near 165 miles per hour. Friday and Saturday could bring a storm across the Mississippi River Valley, flooding and isolated severe weather. All right, let's bring it home. 3 things you need to know heading into this Monday afternoon and evening. Number 1, Wisconsin, Illinois, and Indiana treat any window from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. as potentially active. Number 2, a weak morning squall means the full afternoon severe threat comes back into play fully. Number 3 tomorrow is the East Coast. D.C., Philadelphia, and New York need to prepare by Tuesday morning. Before we close, a direct word to families with elderly relatives inside today's risk zones. Older adults are significantly more vulnerable in severe weather, heat, stress, and power outages amplify the risk. Call family members in nursing or assisted care in Wisconsin or Illinois today and confirm their shelter plan. Check on elderly neighbors this afternoon. A 30-second phone call could genuinely save a life today. Today's event reminds us that severe weather does not check your calendar or care about your Monday plans. Preparation is not about fear. It is about giving yourself options when conditions change fast. 2 Timothy 1:7, God gave us not a spirit of fear, but of power and a sound mind. A sound mind means making your plan now, not when warnings go off and the power is flickering. People who come through events like this are always the ones who prepared before things became urgent. If someone you know is in Wisconsin or Illinois today, share this video and get them that heads up. A heads up from someone they trust is worth more than any push notification they will swipe away. Daily updates are coming through this entire 3-day pattern. Subscribe and turn your notifications on now. Like, subscribe, and turn notifications on is the only way to stay ahead of this active pattern. Tomorrow morning, first thing, a full Monday recap and the complete Tuesday East Coast severe weather outlook. God bless all first responders in Kentucky and Illinois who worked last night's destructive 80 mph storm damage. I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe, Wisconsin. Stay safe, Chicago. God bless y'all today.